Hello and welcome to the Alpha Edge Podcast, the show for men over 50 who refuse to fade out, slow down, play small, or settle for average. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert, coach, and founder of the Alpha Edge, and I am here to help you get and stay strong in every dimension of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, and spiritually. You're here because you're ready to reclaim your power, to own your masculinity, and lead your life with strength and purpose. If you're ready to sharpen your edge, revive your drive, and lead like a man who's built for more, you're in the right place. All right, men, let's get after it. It seems to me, as I look around at guys in our age demographic, so men in their 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s, I don't think most guys have a motivation problem. I think we have a comfort problem. Specifically, I think we have a comfort addiction. When I look around at my peer group or other guys in our age demographic, I don't think it's so much a drug addictions or alcohol addictions or even food addictions, social media addictions, all these things, although maybe you struggle with some of those things. And certainly, clearly, dudes our age struggle with some of those things. But I think the real addiction that a lot of us guys face is comfort. Too much ease, too much convenience, too much padding around every sharp, hard edge of life. I mean, think about it. We've got climate-controlled rooms. We've got food on demand. You don't even have to leave your sofa. We got entertainment on tap. We've got endless scrolling options, all with zero required effort. And then I hear men say, I feel off. I don't feel driven. I just can't seem to get going anymore. To which I reply, I don't think you're stuck. I think you're sedated. You're not burnt out. You're over-comforted. I think the modern world has engineered friction out of our daily lives completely. And friction is exactly what builds strength. It builds discipline. It builds that masculine edge. So that's what I want to talk about today. The fact that comfort has become the most socially acceptable addiction in midlife, and it's quietly weakening men who should be entering their strongest season. All right, guys, let's break this down. So for most of human history, comfort was not a lifestyle, right? It was the reward. Men lived close to effort. So physical labor wasn't a workout. It was survival once upon a time. Movement wasn't optional. It was required for daily life. And food wasn't constant. It was acquired. Heating and cooling weren't automatic. They were things that were in our environment that we had to manage. In other words, we had this exertion first, and then we got the rest. We strained first, and then we got to recover. So the comfort came after the effort once upon a time. Now, flip that around to today. Effort is basically optional. Movement is optional. Discomfort is avoidable at almost every single turn. You can work without moving. You can eat without cooking. You can shop without taking a step. You can socialize without leaving your chair. You can be entertained just mindlessly without even thinking. So we've engineered friction out of our daily lives. And on one level, that is amazing progress. But biologically, behaviorally, masculinely, if that's even a word, this is a problem, like a big problem, because your nervous system, your muscles, your hormone responses, your mental toughness, they were all built and evolved in a world where challenge was normal, not scheduled, where effort was assumed, it wasn't negotiated, and your system expects resistance. But now it lives in permanent convenience. And when comfort becomes constant, two things start to happen, and they happen kind of quietly. Number one, your tolerance for effort drops. And number two, your threshold for discomfort just shrinks dramatically. So things that used to feel normal, they start to feel hard. And things that used to feel hard, they start to feel impossible. And that's not just because you're getting old. That's not aging. That's because you're underexposed to challenge. We didn't just make life easier. We made weakness easier to maintain. So let's pull this apart a little bit. I want to start with this comfort addiction, with its effect on our brains. Because comfort addiction isn't just philosophical, it's neurological, it's biological. Your brain runs heavily on a chemical called dopamine. And I know dopamine gets this rap, it's the pleasure chemical. A lot of people like to call it that, but It's more accurate to call dopamine the motivation and reward chemical. It's an important signal in your body and in your mind, and it's going to drive pursuit. It's going to drive effort. It's going to drive goal-directed behavior. So historically, dopamine spikes followed effort. So you hunted and then you ate. You built and then you rested. You trained and then you felt satisfied. Effort first, reward second. But now look at modern life. You can trigger dopamine without any effort at all, and you can do it all day long. You can scroll, dopamine hit. You can snack, dopamine hit. You can stream, dopamine. Click, dopamine. Order, dopamine. And there's no strain required. There's no effort required. Your brain starts learning a very dangerous lesson at this point, and that is reward is available without any effort. And when that wiring gets reinforced enough times, something very predictable is going to start to happen. Effort starts to feel unusually expensive. Workouts feel harder to start. Hard conversations feel easier to avoid. Discipline feels heavier than it should. Not because you're weak necessarily, but because your reward circuitry has been retrained towards ease. And there's another effect too, and that's tolerance. The more low effort dopamine hits you start to stack up, the less responsive your system becomes, which means you need more stimulation to feel engaged, more comfort to feel satisfied, more ease to feel okay. Meanwhile, challenge, strain, delayed gratification start to feel flat and unrewarding. Guys, that is the trap. Easy rewards make hard effort feel harder. But, and I think this is critical, the wiring is trainable in both directions. When you reintroduce effort before reward, strain before satisfaction, discipline before the comfort, your motivational chemistry starts to recalibrate. Your edge comes back online. So let's look at this across our 5 pillars of strength. You guys know I love talking about the 5 pillars of strength. That's your physical strength, your mental strength, emotional strength, moral strength, spiritual strength. Because comfort addiction doesn't just make you a little softer around the edges. It quietly weakens every pillar that holds a man up, one by one. So let's talk this through. First up, physical strength, our physical pillar first. The body adapts to demand or lack of it. That's important, guys, right? Your body's going to adapt one way or the other. And when comfort dominates your days, movement drops, load disappears, effort gets rare. Muscle shrinks, your work capacity starts to fall, your mobility tightens, and your energy is going to decline. Not because your body betrayed you or because you got old, but because it adapted to low demand. A comfort-heavy lifestyle is going to produce a low-capacity body every single time. Next up is our mental pillar. So mental strength, mental toughness is built through voluntary difficulty, doing what's required when you don't feel like it. So comfort removes those reps. When everything in your environment is adjustable and delayable and negotiable, your mental edge dulls. Frustration tolerance drops, focus weakens, follow through slips, and you start needing the right mood in order to do hard things. Guys, that is a dangerous place for a man to live. Next up, emotional strength, or our emotional pillar. So emotional strength grows when you face tension, not when you avoid it. These are things like hard conversations, conflict, pressure, uncertainty. And comfort-trained men avoid emotional strain, and avoidance breeds fragility. You become more reactive. You become more easily thrown off your game, more dependent on circumstances in order to feel steady. Guys, that's not emotional maturity. That is emotional undertraining. Next up is our moral pillar. So moral strength is kind of subtle, I think, here. Character is built when you choose what's right over what's easy. Comfort culture trains the exact opposite reflex. Choose easy, choose now, choose convenient. And over time, this starts to soften our standards. Promises to yourself get renegotiated. Lines start to shift a little bit. And excuses start to sound a little more reasonable. Comfort doesn't just weaken discipline, it weakens integrity if it's left unchecked. And then finally, we come to the spiritual pillar, so spiritual strength. Look, depth requires some stillness. It requires some discipline and some intentional reflection on something greater than ourselves. And comfort environments are full of distraction and noise. We have constant input and constant stimulation and constant escape, but we have very little silence. We have very little surrender. We have very little reverence. So spiritual strength can erode when a man never sits long enough to listen, wrestle, and grow. So here's the bottom line here. Comfort doesn't just make life easier. Unchecked comfort makes men weaker. Physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, and spiritually, which is why the solution is it's not guilt. The solution is deliberate friction. So let's talk about why guys, especially those of us over 50, are especially vulnerable to this trap. I think so many of us dudes over 50 are susceptible to this comfort addiction, this comfort trap, not because we're weak, but because our life, if we've done some things right, has gotten more comfortable by design, right? Think about the typical midlife pattern. Your career is more stable than it used to be. Your income should be steadier. Your schedule is probably steadier. Your kids are perhaps grown or close to it, and you've earned some margin. And margin is a good thing. But margin without standards turns into drift. When you were younger, life forced friction on you, right? You were constantly proving yourself. You had to build your career. You're raising a family. You're grinding to get established. So pressure created structure, and that structure created effort, and that effort maintained your edge. But then somewhere in midlife, something changes. That external pressure often starts to drop. And if you don't replace it with internal standards, comfort's going to fill that space. We're going to see things like less urgency, less competition, less required movement, less consequences for backing off a little bit. So you can skip a workout, nobody knows. You can eat like garbage and nobody's going to stop you. You're a grown-ass man, right? You can drift for a year and life still, quote unquote, works. Guys, I think that's the trap. Because the absence of any immediate consequences creates this illusion that behavior is harmless. But the bill always comes due. In this case, it's just going to come later. And I think there's another factor. Also, I think a lot of us guys over 50, we mentally give ourselves permission to coast. And we say things like, look, I've earned this. I'm slowing down now. I'm not trying to be that guy anymore. And to be fair, you do not need to prove yourself like the 28-year-old version of yourself. You certainly shouldn't be chasing that. But you absolutely still need to train like a dangerous, capable man. Different season, same standards. Midlife is not a signal to soften, or it shouldn't be. It's a call to stabilize and then sharpen with intention. So, if comfort is the trap, let's talk about the antidote. What's the counter move here to this comfort trap? And I think that the tool, the cure, the antidote, whatever you want to call it, is discomfort. That's our tool here. I'm not talking about reckless suffering. I'm not talking about any fake tough guy stuff. I'm not talking about grueling punishment. I'm just talking about strategic discomfort, like this chosen strain. Because discomfort, when it's applied on purpose, is one of the most powerful growth signals a man can introduce into his life. Your body reads strain as a message, and that message is adapt, upgrade, get stronger. You load a muscle, it builds. You stress your heart and lungs, they expand capacity. You challenge your balance and your coordination, they're going to sharpen. No strain, no signal. No signal, no adaptation. Same thing mentally. Do difficult things on schedule and your discipline's going to grow. Delayed gratification, your impulse control is going to strengthen. If you finish hard tasks, see them through to the end, your confidence will rise. Discomfort is the training language of progress. And emotionally, it works the same way. Have that hard conversation. Tell the truth when it's maybe awkward. Hold the boundary even when it's unpopular. Emotional steadiness is built under this tension, not in avoidance. So here's the frame us midlife guys I think we need to adopt. Discomfort's not danger. Discomfort is development. I think this modern world has trained us to interpret discomfort as a stop sign. But in training, whether that's physical or personal development, discomfort is often the green light. It means you're at the edge of adaptation. Now, I'm not talking about injury. I'm not talking about stupidity. I'm not talking about burnout. We're talking about deliberate, repeatable, recoverable challenge. A man who regularly chooses small doses of discomfort stays sharp. A man who avoids discomfort gets fragile, even if he looks successful on paper. Comfort makes you feel safe in the moment, but discomfort makes you strong for the long term, for the long haul. So let's make this practical. Let's put this into a framework. Let's develop a voluntary hardship protocol. Not anything crazy, extreme, or not heroic, not miserable. I'm talking about something that's controlled and repeatable and deliberate. So this deliberate discomfort built into a normal week. Because when hardship is chosen on purpose, it builds strength on purpose. So I've got, 5 ways here? Yeah, 5 ways that we can start to apply this immediately. Number 1, train when you don't feel like it. Guys, I'm not talking about recklessly, but consistently strength training. The rule's simple. If it's a scheduled training day, you show up, you do the work. Mood is not the decision maker. Standards are. Nothing rebuilds mental edge faster than executing on schedule instead of your emotions. Rule number 2, and I guess this is kind of in the same vein here, but add some daily small physical hardship. So carry some heavy things, take the stairs, do some loaded carries, but let your body regularly experience some strain on purpose, intentionally. Your system remembers how to be strong through exposure, not through intention. Number 3, introduce some temperature discomfort. So look, I get it. I know this is super trendy right now, but finish your shower on full cold for 30 to 60 seconds. Or maybe use contrast showers, not for any bragging rights, but for nervous system training. You're teaching your body and your brain, hey, I can stay calm under stress. And that pattern transfers into real life. Number 4, let's restrict those easy dopamine windows, those easy dopamine hits. Create some short blocks where you're just going to remove comfort inputs. So things like maybe for you it's scrolling or snacking or some background entertainment. Just focus on work, or maybe it's deliberate rest without these easy dopamine inputs. You're retraining your reward system to respond to effort again. And number 5, do one avoided task daily. Look, all of us, we have things we avoid, right? But every day, identify one thing you've been putting off. Maybe it's the call, maybe it's that repair, maybe it's a tough conversation, maybe it's a decision. Just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. Avoidance feeds comfort addiction, where action is going to break it. So here's the key principle. We are not trying to make your life miserable. We are reintroducing friction strategically where modern life has just stripped it away, because friction builds edge. Think about it. Every time you've ever grown has been from a place of friction or pain, because friction builds edge, and edge is what keeps a man capable, steady, and dangerous in the best possible way. And there's one more multiplier here that I think a lot of us guys underestimate. Discomfort is powerful by itself, right? But shared discomfort is transformational. Us men are wired for shoulder-to-shoulder challenge, not isolation, not lone wolf mentality, not silent self-improvement. But look where men historically built strength. They were training together. They were working together. They were building together. They were competing together. Effort was social. Standards were visible. Accountability was built in. And when you're the only one who knows your commitments, it's really easy to negotiate with yourself. I'll do it tomorrow, or not today, or it's no big deal, or I'll start Monday. But when other dudes know your standards, negotiation gets a whole lot harder. Performance rises to the level of the environment. You put a man in a comfort culture, he's going to relax. You put a man in a standards culture, he's going to sharpen. And that's why a lot of us guys train harder in a group than alone. We lift heavier with a partner than we do solo. We show more grit when someone else is watching and is there with us. And that's not ego, guys. That's just wiring. Shared hardship builds identity faster than private intention 100% of the time. And it builds something else too. I think it builds perspective. You realize that you're not the only one fighting inertia. You're not the only one rebuilding your edge and investing in yourself. You're not the only one who's choosing standards over comfort. And I think that matters a whole lot more than a lot of us guys care to admit. You do not need to suffer alone to become strong. In fact, you shouldn't suffer alone in order to become the strongest version of yourself. You just need aligned company and honest standards. So let's put this into action, because talk is cheap unless we put things into action. So you guys know I love a challenge. Here's your challenge. So for the next 7 days, not the next month or the next year, for the rest of your life, but just for the next 7 days, I want you to deliberately reduce comfort and to increase chosen effort. Nothing extreme, nothing stupid, nothing unsafe, just raising our standards here. So here's the rules. Rule number 1, no skipped workouts. If it's scheduled, you do it. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be heroic, but it gets done. No mood-based cancellations here, guys. Rule number 2, let's have some daily physical activity. So every day your body does something that at least feels like work. That could be just walking, a brisk walk. It could be some carries. It could be some intervals. Maybe it's just taking some time to work on mobility. But basically the idea here is your system feels some kind of demand daily. And rule number 3, eliminate one comfort crutch. So pick your biggest easy dopamine leak and shut it down for the next 7 days. Maybe for you, that's late night junk food, or it could be alcohol. Maybe it's just this endless scrolling or mindless snacking. Could be streaming Netflix, whatever. But one goes dark for the week. Rule number 4, you're going to do one avoided task per day. Look, there are 7 things that you've been avoiding. I can guarantee that without knowing anything about you. But every day this week, you're going to do one thing that you've been avoiding. Maybe it's send that email. Maybe it's make that appointment. Maybe it's do that repair. Maybe it's make that decision or have that tough conversation, something. But know that avoidance is comfort addiction in disguise, and taking action is the antidote. Then rule number 5, let's do a cold finish. So every shower ends cold for 30 to 60 seconds. Again, not because it's trendy, not because your favorite fitness influencer is hyping up ice baths, but because you're practicing calm under discomfort. You're doing it intentionally. You're doing it daily. That's it. 7 days, 5 rules, 0 drama. You're not trying to prove you're tough, but you are retraining your relationship with comfort. So you do this for a week, and I guarantee you're going to feel a shift. You're going to feel a shift in discipline, in energy, in self-respect. And once you feel that shift, you're not going to want to go back. All right, guys, let's start to wrap this thing up here. Let's bring this home. Comfort didn't build you. Challenge did. Effort did. Resistance did. Pressure did. Every strong season of your life was forged in friction, perhaps even pain, not ease. I guarantee it. And if you feel your edge slipping right now, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you're getting old. It's because you've been overexposed to comfort and underexposed to chosen hardship. Guys, good news here. That is fixable starting today. Not with extreme measures, not with any macho nonsense, but with deliberate standards, chosen discomfort, some scheduled effort, some visible commitments. So here's the identity shift I want you guys to lock into. You are not a comfort-seeking man. You are a challenge-choosing man. Comfort is a reward, not a lifestyle. Ease is earned, not assumed. So guys, take that 7-day comfort fast seriously. Execute it like it matters, because I think it does. And if this episode hit a chord with you, do me a favor and share it with a dude in your life who maybe he's drifting into some softness and maybe he's just calling it life or normal, or that's just how it is. All right, guys, that's what I've got for you this week. Until next week, stay sharp, stay dangerous, stay in the fight, and stay strong. Okay, men, that's our show for this week. Don't forget to download our free guide titled How to Raise Your Testosterone Naturally. You can find the download link in the show notes for this episode on whatever app you're listening to this podcast on. If you've enjoyed today's show, here are 3 ways you can support us. Number 1, share this episode with a friend. Number 2, make sure to like and follow this show, and please consider leaving us a 5-star review. Number 3, give us a follow over at Instagram. We're at Alpha Edge Army. So that's Alpha Edge Army all run together. I really appreciate you men taking the time to listen. And until next week, stay strong.